This is your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. When you live in chronic pain or struggle with, crazy, terrible, horrible autoimmune conditions and diseases and disorders and all the yuck that goes on in my world, sometimes it's kind of a minute by minute decision to keep on trucking through life. I know for me, it's a constant conversation with Thelma and Louise. And for those of you that are new to the show, Thelma and Louise are my left and right legs. And I had to name them, and they're crazy wild bitches. And every morning when my alarm goes off, which is very, very early because it takes me forever to be able to put my feet on the floor, I have a conversation with Thelma and Louise. Like, come on, ladies, let's cowgirl up. Let's do this thing. How are you going to help support me today in being successful? And typically they're a little cranky in the morning. They've got all kinds of voices that they're throwing at me. They're giving me these narratives that are so negative. They're talking about fear. They're telling me I'm not going to be able to do it. They're telling me I'm going to hurt. I'm going to burn. I'm not going to be able to walk. I'm not going to make it. Right. And of course, I have to stomp it out. And it's not easy. And the only way that I can do that is by my mindset shifting. And it is something that I've learned to be able to do fairly quickly in comparison to where I used to be. So anyways, but I can tell you that when I don't move, when I am sitting around, my pain level might be really, really high. If I sit around and I claim that I'm resting, which really isn't what I'm doing, I'm more along the lines of like stressed out and fearful that, well, this is it for the rest of the day, I guess. I end up hurting worse, right? We're meant to move. We're meant to dance. We're meant to sing and dance. We are meant to climb, to swim, to reach, to pull, to push, to have sex, to love, to enjoy. And my favorite thing on the planet, clean. So when little Miss OCD over here, right? So you got to move, but you do need to rest. But resting is different than what I think a lot of us think that it is. Anyway, so today we are going to be talking about conquering chronic pain, which everybody was, oh yeah, of course we're going to conquer chronic pain today. Yes, we are. That's your negative self-talk talking, right? Increasing our stress resilience, which is something that I 100% stink at. Unlearning our pain fear response and how to reclaim an active life through movement and most specifically Pilates. So let's get off of our asses today and talk about it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, DK Ciccone. How are you, girl?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am so good. It is so wonderful to have you here. I am wearing your hat for your company.
Love it. It looks amazing on you.
Thank you so very much. DK is a certified Pilates instructor who helps people in pain improve strength, mobility, and well-being in a weight-neutral environment. She is trained in pain reprocessing therapy through the Pain Psychology Center. And after 20 years in the health sector, DK left a corporate career, good for you, girl, to follow her passion, later launching Movement Remedies, aka my hat that I'm wearing, a chronic pain-focused Pilates studio in Boston, Massachusetts.
Love it.
Well, I am rolling out the red carpet for you, babe.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'd like to start by talking about what happened to you when you were 13 years old that kind of changed the trajectory of your health, your own narrative, your fear, and even into your self-worth.
Yeah. So I, like most 13-year-olds, had really big dreams and ideas about, you should at that age have nothing but dreams. And it's not really until you get a little older that the world starts, crashing all those balloons down on you. You should be allowed to hold the dreams for a little while. But, for those of us and there are many of us who started having, persistent pain from a young age, the dreams can get kind of stolen early. So I was in the middle of a performance of the musical Godspell in a playhouse in Sherman, Connecticut, a rural place. And I was just about to sing. It was the very beginning of a show. I had all the jitters. the pit band starts playing, the lights get dark, you're like, got the clammy, like excited feeling. And then all of a sudden, as I start to sing, I just make this little gesture, like just like I'd practiced like 8,000 times. And it was just like a lightning bolt had just shot right down through my body.
Mm.
And I remember so clearly because my father was actually doing the sound. I grew up with musician parents. So he was often involved and he was in the sound booth doing it for this show. And I remember just looking straight up when it happened into the sound booth. And there he was, looking back at me, and he just knew something was very, very wrong. But I kept singing and I was just committed to trying to push through. But there was like a million thoughts that were running through my head at the time. Like, why is this happening? Is this forever? Like, is this right now? Like, did I do something wrong? And, basically where I got to in 10 seconds of trying to kind of sum up where I was going to do with this new information was, I'm going to keep singing. I'm going to make it through this performance from hell or high water. And I'm going to smile right through it and not let anybody see. And I think in a way that was sort of the beginning of also a really unhealthy coping mechanism for pain in general, was to just kind of shove it down. And in the moment, I felt like, the task at hand, kind of the importance of that rose above whatever I was feeling. And, I did make it through that performance and then spent the weekend on ice packs and so on and trying to figure out why that happened. But it did launch, that event kind of happened over and over again. So that chronic pain became not just a thing that happened once, far, far away in a galaxy, far, far away, but sort of like the daily, is it going to be today?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think because of where I was in my life, I already had learned enough because of being a dancer and wanting to be on stage and also just having a thicker body, which, I was an ugly, fat, miserable,
Oh,
confused little girl. I mean, what girl doesn't have that moment, like
oh, of course.
at
We all
13?
do. We can all go into that our bodies are changing. And you even talked about
Yes.
it in your book, like, oh, great, this is the best time to do this. We're going through puberty. We're going through all these things. And like, not unlike yourself, like I started my menstrual period like way early, way too young. I was the one that had boobs. I was the one that had to like
Yes.
raise my hand and go to the bathroom and talk to the
Yes.
teacher and all that
Yes.
crap
Yes.
and wear a sweatshirt
Yes.
around my waist. Like I remember it. And like your book gave me a little PTSD in some places because I was like, but you know what it did for me though was that it took me out of my island, off my island. And so much of the things that we talk about on the show when I meet all of these incredible people is that it does remind me that I am not alone in anything that I have going
Yes.
on in my life, good, bad, or ugly. And that's why we're here, because we're presenting hope that has come from all kinds of pain and suffering and puberty and all the things
Well,
that come
yeah.
around with that. Yeah.
And that these are patterns that are like, I'm convinced that the pattern and results from your environment, there's lots of research that shows that there are plenty of people walking around down the street. Like if I were to go just take 10 people off the street and put them in an MRI machine, there's a really good chance they have disc herniations, arthritis, and they have no idea. They feel fine. So, pain, yeah, I mean, there are certainly obviously very specific conditions in which pain is happening as a result of, the nervous system being, very confused. But it's so environmental and social and, related to relationships. And there's just so many things outside. And I think at that time, and certainly really not up until 10 years ago, were we really starting to recognize that as a real explanation of pain. And so I think people like myself have been walking around just believing there's an inherent flaw, like a fatal flaw in me that made pain my constant companion. And that this was just sort of the cards I was being dealt in life, like it really shifted my beliefs to be like, okay. And that happens to me even now, Lyndsay, like, if I get a flare up of pain, because pain does come and go, like that is one of the ways in which my nervous system lets me know, hey, overachiever, like time to sit down,
Yeah.
like, no, you don't need to do another load of laundry, lie down or, and we can talk about rest being productive. But I mean, that is just an internal system thing for me, sort of like a way of letting me know that there's something that there's awry in my environment. I have a toxic relationship that I need to get out of, or I have a toxic, pattern of beliefs that I need to get out of. And now I have a whole different relationship with pain because it's not sort of like this death sentence. It's not this permanent thing that every time it comes up, I know I am afraid that it's going to be forever. And it took decades for that. I think so many people, I mean, I see people who walk in my doors that I work with who have a flare up of something, and I can see in their eyes that their number one fear is like, this is it now. This is the one. This is the big kahuna. It came for me. And now I will have this back, strain, this sciatica, this whatever, forever and ever and ever. And to let go of that is just really hard. But that is, I think, my mission. That's where hope is. That's where hope lies for me, is that pain doesn't have to be a permanent state, that there are ways, even if it's a person that has to, be a passenger in your car for the rest of your life. Like, is there a way to have that person be in the back seat rather than, trying to grab the wheel and take over? And that is, I think, my real focus.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, like the beliefs that we create and that narrative and the conversations that we have with ourselves, they end up slowly but surely holding us back from who our true self is. And I think that over time, when we hide behind whatever it is we hide behind, and I've hidden behind a million different masks, I'm very, very good at it. As I started to unwrap a lot of and unpack a lot of the things that have happened to me in my life, both that I've done to myself or others have done harm to myself, because I'm not a perfect angel, as everybody knows. That would be no fun. But a lot of those lifestyle choices that I made on top of coupled with the things that happened to me outside of my control, all of those things slowly but surely led to similar things that you're talking about. My self-worth. I had such incredible low self-esteem. Anybody that went to high school with me or college with me would probably be like, what are you didn't have self-esteem?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you talking about? I'm like, dude, I was the queen of making everybody think everything was just fine. And I started that at a very, very young age, around 9 years old. And so it's only just fairly recently in the past couple of years where I've been able to look at myself in the mirror and address all of those fears, address the struggles, and try to start feeling a little bit better in my own skin. So what do we do when we're at those points where we're dealing with this pain and we know we need to push through, we know we need to move our body, but we also need to give ourselves some grace and do that rest, not sitting around being lazy asses, but rest. So can you talk a little bit about how rest can be productive?
Yeah. So I think you can even have rest in the middle of doing something. So I think rest is not just like physical immobility, but it's the rest of the mind and the heart, and it's that reconnecting. If I don't think it's really that beneficial unless you're spending time reconnecting with your core being, your essence. So I don't really know what the right term is, but essentially, there was a point in my life where I kind of looked up and someone said to me, what is it that you want, right? What are you after? And I had no idea. And I think we have a tendency to just, maybe it's because our culture pushes us harder, faster, stronger, bigger, or I'm not sure, or maybe it's just part of the human desire to please or whatever. But we have a tendency to get in patterns of chasing after other people's expectations of what success looks like.
That's people
So I would
pleasing.
say, yeah, I mean, I would say rest is like taking a moment to check in with the inner DK and saying, like, hey, girl,
What's up?
how you doing? Like, I know you're telling everyone everything is fine, but is it really fine? And so rest may be journaling, rest may be a walk, rest may be watercolor painting, for example. Like, I find watercolor painting to be extremely peaceful. Rest can be a bath. But like lying on my couch, like berating myself for all the things that I'm not doing isn't rest, right?
Yeah.
All it is doing is exacerbating the problem, which is that I have a disconnect between what my brain or what my story thinks that I should be doing and what is actually good for me in that moment. And that's why in the book, I really have that emphasis on kind of, you can't get anywhere until you set up your personal value statements, because unless you know like what you're doing and why, then you can't figure out what direction to even go in. You don't know what good looks like.
Yeah, and we talk about your why often on this show too. It's like, I know what my why is when I wake up in the morning. Now, it took me forever to get there. Mine is in a short, cute little phrase, giving my pain purpose. That's it. That is my mantra. That is my tagline. That is me. In fact, I'm getting a tattoo with it on my bod.
I was just going to say that. I was like, that sounds like a great tattoo.
Yeah, I have one on my forearm that says pain shapes a woman into a warrior. And so, yes, girl. So, but yeah, giving my pain purpose, that is my why. I don't get paid to do this show, guys, right? I run a marketing agency full time. I help run my Sweeties show. I've got my stuff. I've got my bod. I've got our dogs. We've got all kinds of things going on. This show is why I get out of bed. This is it. Because I get to meet you. I get to talk to you about what you've been through and how you've gotten stronger and also where our weaknesses are. We're not sitting here going, oh man, do I have my shit together and everything's just perfect the way I do it? Absolutely not. I fail. I fall. I fell out of my wheelchair 2 mornings ago. That was a winning moment.
Yeah,
Ass up.
I'm sorry.
Shit happens, but it's the way in which we handle it. So like some things work for some people and others don't. But for me, that mindfulness and that decision that I'm going to do good today and I'm going to help one person, even if it's myself, it is such a different mindset than, well, crap, I got to wake up. My legs hurt. My feet hurt. I don't want to do it. All it is this a complete different conversation with yourself, and it can help you along the way. So when we're talking about resting and then we're talking about movement, your studio is a Pilates studio.
Yes.
Can you explain to us, I know what it is, but can you explain to listeners that might not know what Pilates is? Because I think a lot of people, we had Leslie Logan on our show.
Yes.
Who introduced me to you, who talked about Pilates as well, but we talked about a whole different side of things on her show. But Pilates looks scary, right? We see all of the things on Instagram with like wall Pilates and all of these things. But when you're talking about the reformers and these machines and all of these big things, it looks daunting. So I'd like you to explain a little bit about what it is and the power of it and why it works so well for people that live in chronic pain, and also take the fear out of take the fear out of the Pilates machines, because I know that my sweetie and I are starting Pilates, like I told you. And he's like, I got to do what? I'm like, hey, you're the one that brought up you want to do Pilates. It wasn't me, buddy.
Well, it's kind of hot right now, so we have that going for us. But so yeah, Pilates, it's a series of movements, right? Functional movements that were created by Joseph Pilates, but it is coupled with also a set of equipment. So you can theoretically do Pilates with a mat. So most people have a regular kind of mat, yoga mat, thick mat at home. So you can do a Pilates mat class and not even touch the equipment.
Okay.
I really believe that the equipment, then there's several pieces of equipment. You can see a couple of them behind me, but the reformers, the chair, the ladder barrel, there are several pieces of equipment that all serve different purposes. And I really enjoy working with them, with folks who are in pain, because in general, you can create movement experiences that kind of change the brain's understanding of what basic things are. And so it's a really great way to get out of patterns of fear, or to get out of patterns of kind of anticipatory, like it's still fear, I guess, but you have a pain in anticipation of something that you do, like going up the stairs, for example. Now, there's lots of ways I can use springs to create a sensation that's like going up the stairs to help you build muscles that would be used in the action of going up the stairs. But it feels so different because of the instability of the pedal and the way the spring reacts to you. It's not the floor. It kind of breaks the brain's understanding that like these are stairs. So I really like using that because I go right at what people are afraid of, because for me, that's at the heart of pain. And if people, I have yet to have someone come in here who had an issue, and I do a lot of joint replacement work, but even my folks who come in with a chronic condition, there are very few people who can't say yes to the question, is there anything that you fear will cause you pain? And so trying to get underneath whatever that thing is. And, as we get older, like falling is like a really common one. So creating situations that help people mimic catching themselves from a fall, but in a really safe environment, is something that we can do with the Pilates equipment that's kind of different from anything else that you would do in like a gym or, with other pieces of equipment.
I love that.
So I see the springs as a way of changing your relationship to gravity in a super safe environment.
That's a great way to explain that, though. And when it comes to sensation, I'm trying to use the word sensation instead of feelings. This is a new thing I'm trying out. Because I feel like saying that hurts or that feels bad or whatever, instead of being, well, that's an interesting sensation. It means the same thing, but it doesn't at the same time. And it's just the words we use sometimes, you know? It's like, God, I look terrible in this, instead of, wow, you look pretty good today. You know, like just even if you don't, like, just say it, like talk yourself into it. But I love the sensation part of the stairs. That was such a great visual, especially for me, because my feet, they touch the floor, but I don't feel like my feet are touching the floor. I feel like I'm walking like through, like I'm not sure where the ground is going to stop, where it begins. Even though I see it, I know I can feel that my feet are on the floor, but they feel like it's almost like I'm on a hoverboard. And so it's such a weird feeling, and that stability is what I think is going to be so neat about Pilates for both of us, because we have different issues. Those that know him know a lot of them. But for me, I feel less fearful doing something like Pilates, because I feel like the equipment is going to help stabilize me and make me feel like I am supported, where right now I feel like I'm floating above the ground, and at any moment the wind's going to blow and knock my ass to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. So we can mimic a lot of what you would do standing up.
Yeah.
In a lying down position.
That's so cool.
Yes. So a lot of people will really enjoy that, because it's essentially impact free, right? So you're getting to do
so excited.
I mean, we know this already, but like, I feel like more and more it's becoming well known, especially among women who are going through, menopausal changes. But like, resistance training is absolutely essential. Like, it's not enough to just, move your body around. You do want to do things that are creating strength. And it's very difficult to find safe ways to create strength when you're dealing with physical challenges, or, you can't just like walk into a gym and then have someone be like, let's do a med ball slam. Like, that's not like in most people's vocabulary. Yeah. Like the gym culture has gotten a little out of hand, but that's like a whole nother thing.
That's a whole episode. And I'm glad that you brought up diet culture, gym culture. Like, I've never been a gym person ever. I won't go. I'm not interested. I don't like it. I've always been a homebody, like exerciser, or I was
It's like everything
hiking,
I hated
biking,
about
skiing.
the middle school lunchroom, like
That's
in a
exactly
place that I
right.
pay for.
I'm like, okay, I do not like this bitch on the treadmill next to me. I'm going to like somehow some Lego's going to accidentally like pop up on her treadmill right now. I don't know. Get out of here.
I'm glad you said it, not me.
With your blonde ponytail and your big boobs. Knock it off.
That's what I imagine all of California is like.
Pretty much. Yep. Pretty much. And that's one of the reasons that I love it so much. But I think that safety and that fear that you talk about when people come in there is obviously there's more fear than less fear when you first start doing. I mean, I would say anything, starting a new job, starting a new school, starting whatever, something new. This was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, starting this show, because I knew I was going to have to be vulnerable, raw, real, and actually really, truly 100% me. And so far, so good.
Yeah. Seems to be working for you, I guess.
It seems to be something that all of the effort that we've been putting out, both.
But isn't that interesting though? Like, I actually want to comment on that, because actually as humans, we crave authenticity in each other. And yet we spend so much time trying to block
be someone
our authentic selves. Like, what is that about? I mean, that's also a huge part of, I think, when we get out of sync with our values, is when we try to show up inauthentically. And, that's really where the corporate world kind of took me down strong, and like anxiety and panic attacks. And, that was when I was like, okay, we're done. But yeah, it turns out that we actually really seek that in others. We seek connection in others. We seek that vulnerability in others. And so why we're so committed to putting up a facade, and it's like so interesting. I don't know why that is.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't help that we've got Instagram and there's filters for everything. So, I'm like, okay, I was out to lunch with you yesterday, honey, and this is not what you looked like. I'm like, girl, did you get a facelift overnight? Because you were putting a cheeseburger in your mouth faster than I could even like open my straw wrapper. So that part of it is body dysmorphic stuff. I mean, it gives like the myths that we make up in our heads about our bodies and what they're capable of and what they're not. I have body dysmorphic issues that I never would have thought that I did because I don't look like I used to. I'm so skinny and so atrophied and my cheeks are sunken in. You don't know what I used to look like. I was 70 pounds heavier than I am right now. Talk about thick, girlfriend, right? Sorry, it's the word. The episode name might just be thick. Get thick. Get
That's
thick.
That's going to be my tattoo.
No, just stay thick.
Stay thick. Thick and thorough.
Thick and thorough. This is Bumper Sticker Podcast. We come up with all of the best bumper sticker lines that you ever could find. Oh my God.
Trademark.
So yeah, trademark. Exactly. I've got so many domain names. It's just disgusting. Anyways, so how long did it take for you to start seeing the benefits and feeling the benefits of Pilates, not just physically, but when you're talking about your soul food and how you felt about yourself?
In my own body, you mean?
Yes, your own body.
I mean, first mat class, I felt better.
Wow.
I mean, I was like definitely the combination of the breathing and the strength and just sort of there's very functional movement in it where you're kind of stabilizing your torso and like moving a limb and, vice versa. And then kind of working your core. And then there's lots of what I love about it, especially when you're doing like a classical mat repertoire, is there's always a good balance of moving in each direction. So I'm always going forward and backward. I'm going side to side. I'm twisting, I'm moving everything. So I think that there's just like a 360 degree-ness to it that I have always found my back pain response really well to. Even though up until that point, the only tool in my box was lie down and put feet up on pillows and then feel sorry for yourself. Like that was about all I had. And that got kicked out once I realized that was actually not serving me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's the kind of thing you have to do like a million times a week. I mean, there are people who are like that, but I've had people coming in once a week and finding that their strength's improving because you learn things in the session about your body, especially when you're moving in such a way that you're not like planning your grocery list as you're moving, but you're also paying attention to the sensations in your body as you're moving. And you're learning things about how you interact with space that people carry with them. And so when you move in that way and then you carry that knowledge with you, then you sort of feel you're kind of using your muscles maybe differently throughout the whole week. And that's ultimately what you want, right? You're posturally feeling better. You're feeling lighter on your feet. You're feeling more balanced mentally, physically.
Yeah, I all of a sudden just sat up really straight and I was like,
I saw that.
And was it in your book or did I read it in another one? I read so many books for this show. There was something that said, is when you're slumping, as soon as you sit up straight, all of a sudden you just kind of feel better. I just that one movement, it's so simple, but it's like, here I am, world, instead of like,
well, it's like that power pose thing. That wasn't my book, but the power pose thing.
Power pose?
Power posture. I feel like someone wrote a book about basically
everybody's written a book about something.
I know. But if you plant 2 feet and you stand really tall, it just makes you feel really empowered.
Yeah, it's like putting on red lipstick, baby. There's something about that. And the confidence that you can gain. I am like mind boggled that you started to feel better on one mat class. That's like, talk about giving somebody like me hope. And I've been terrible because I used to be like, not an exercise junkie, but I certainly was athletic and active. I mean, my whole family's super, super active. I mean, it's almost intimidating, my family, how active they are. You're like, dear Lord, are we all Olympians? Like, what? We're gross. But we're also just amazing people. We all are like good at something when it comes to sports and athleticism, from sailing to skiing to biking to hiking. And for me, that was my life. And now I can't walk my dogs,
That's hard.
And one thing in your book that I cracked up about though was, where was it? Oh my gosh. It was so funny. It was, that your clients can't describe like the pain experience, what they want to get out of their pain experience. And the first thing that they wanted to do was, I can't walk my dog. And then it was like the second or third one after that was about the spouse. Dogs are number one. Spouse, yeah, I mean, I'll do stuff with him later, but whatever. I was dead. Because that's true. And in fact, I'm joining a whole new functional medicine group because that's just where I'm at in my health journey. And one of the questions that I had to fill out on it was, what is the number one thing that you miss most? And this was today. This morning I filled it out, and it was walking my dog. Or dogs, because every morning I woke up and I did a couple miles with my dogs every single morning. And it was the best. I listened to my music and I'm talking to them. And I have not done it in 3 years. I haven't walked my dogs. And I mean, they're getting walked, but they're just not getting walked by me.
I get it. No, I get it.
We're not worried I'm not a monster. I am not a monster. So, but it's unbelievable. Just that little thing that is my goal, because I know when I can do that again, I'm on the right path, Dear Lord, here I go. So, the struggle is real, guys. The struggle is real.
Totally.
But it is mindset. And I know that like my sweetie was like, why don't we just walk to the end of the street and back? And I'm like, because I want to go further. He's like, well, you're not going to get further if you don't start going somewhere. And those that know him knows that that's not how he talks.
Yeah, but that's because then you have to admit to yourself that when you get to the end, you have to turn around, and that's really hard.
Totally. But
nobody wants to come face to face with that.
Geez, I wasn't expecting to be this teary. Anyway, raw and vulnerable with Lyndsay Soprano. But yeah, no, you're right. It is. That is the fear. That's the fear, is that I can't go further. But we went that far, right? So that's a decision that you have to make, because that will probably make me feel better. In fact, when we get done here, I'm going to go take my dogs down the street. Yeah, actually, no, I should just go myself.
So I have a client I was actually just speaking to this morning who said she has multiple sclerosis and she was afraid to go to the grocery store. And she did it this week and she was very excited. And I said, well, why did you believe that you couldn't make it to the grocery store? And she said, well, it's a really long walk from one end of the store to the other. And I didn't know if I could do it. And I said, have you ever tried to do it before and you weren't able to do it? And she said, well, no. And I said, so maybe it's time to build some evidence so that your brain can stop telling you stuff it doesn't have facts for. Because, and I think, it may be that you can only get to the end of the block, but Lyndsay, there's always that possibility that you go 2 blocks.
Yeah. Totally. And I'm not going to know until I go do it. And we use my wheelchair. I can walk. I just can't walk long distances, right? I can bebop around the house. This week's been challenging. I've been in my chair more than normal, but that's because there's a bunch of stress stuff going on. And that's another topic. But yeah, if I keep saying to myself, okay, I used to row, right? And I'm like, I have a rowing, the most amazing rowing machine that I walk by 750,000 times a day. And I'm like, tomorrow, I'm going to see you tomorrow. And guess what? Tomorrow's been 3 years.
I mean,
so I can preach all day long that these are the things that we need to be doing, right? But I'm real in that I'm saying, hey, I am doing the best that I can with what I've been given right now and today. And the fact that I am the way I am, that I smile and cry, but that I have the personality type that I have in the midst of how I feel Lyndsay, listen to that. That is if I can generate that and just channel it a little differently, instead of doing 800 loads of laundry, let's walk to the end of the block and prove that you can do that. Because if I can walk back and forth in my house, into the garage, or throw laundry in or whatever, all day long, in and out, why can't I go to the end of the street?
So, but also what I'm hearing you say is that walking your dog is really close to your heart. That's what your heart wants.
That's what made me cry, for crying out loud.
Yeah. I mean I think everybody saw. Everybody, I have a lot of, witnesses. But so, maybe the laundry goes that day. I know, crazy. But maybe it doesn't actually matter in the scheme of things.
Doesn't.
Maybe, focusing your energy, because it's true. I mean, but I'm not gonna lie, CRPS is a particularly difficult condition. I mean, it's not as easy as I have a herniated disc and resolve. It will structurally resolve itself over time because that's what tissues do. This is a complicated thing. But, you have a certain amount of gas in the tank, right? Don't spend it all on the shit you don't care about. Spend it on the thing that lets your heart on fire.
I know.
That was so powerful.
But do you know how amazing it is when all of my shirts and all of my socks are folded just so?
Girl, you got to pick one.
I know.
Is it amazing because it makes you feel less guilty, or is it amazing because it actually makes your heart happy? Is it like avoidance of guilt, or is it really joy, pure joy?
I don't know if I like this question. Next question.
Sorry, I'm supposed to be asking
you know what?
questions.
Honestly, I do. And I opened up the show talking about how cleaning is one of my things. It is. I love things in order. I have purposely done things though to stop work on my OCD, and that's part of it. Like some of it, I don't even know that I'm doing it. And my sweetie's like, "Do you understand that you've re-straightened the books on the coffee table like 7 times since I've been sitting here?" I'm like, "Well, stop moving them." He's like,
it's
"I'm
always
reading."
possible. It's also possible that those things feel like control, which is an illusion.
It's 100% what it feels like.
And,
yes.
And then like walking and not knowing if you're going to make it feels like the complete opposite of that. It feels like hanging out in space, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I get why one is like more attainable than the other.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I'm
right.
really looking forward to the email that you're going to send me tonight when you tell me about the walk that you took.
And we'll just video it and then I'll send it to you.
That's perfect. I love it.
Well, yeah, because 2024, I've learned so much from my guests. 100%. Any changes that have happened in my world have been because, well, I've been doing work, but I have been doing so much that I have been learning and taking from the books that I'm reading, from the guests that I've been meeting, to help put the best game plan in place for me. And the launch of the new game plan started Jan 2. We're only a couple days into the year, right? I am ready. It took me having to give up so much stuff and let go of a lot of fear. I mean, I obviously still have fear, but working through those things, because it's not going to happen overnight, guys. 1% at a time, then tomorrow's 2%, and the next day's 3%. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that didn't take all that long actually to feel better. But if we're like, well, I want the end result right now, you know how when you go on a diet, which I hate that word, and you're like, well, I ate chicken and broccoli last night. Why didn't I lose 20 pounds? You also shoved 32 shrimp wontons in your mouth right before that. So it's just that instant gratification that we want it now. We want our results now. And I don't think that's good for any of us. And I think that's fear-based. At least for me, I feel that that's fear-based. It's like, well, if I start it, what if I fail? Or if I say I'm going to do this and then I end up not doing it? Well, at least try. If we're not going to try.
And I think we need to, my grandmother used to always talk about that there's a poem in the Path to Ithaca.
Okay.
And like the story of Odysseus and how he like basically spends his whole life trying to, I think it's Odysseus, Greek mythology buffs. I'm so sorry. But basically the guy spends his whole
Don't
life.
Worry, it's not a Greek mythology show.
Trying to get to the Ithaca and then basically like dies, right? But realizes that like it was the journey that mattered. It wasn't the arrival that mattered. And I think we get so outcome focused, sure. like it matters what the outcome is, but the process is also can be enjoyable.
I'm not going to get better balance, get stronger, have my core back, be able to be active and do the things I want to do if I'm not going to walk into the Pilates studio and do what I need to do, right? Or whatever that looks like to somebody else. And it's just, we just said we were going to join January and that's what we did. So it's like, wow, this is crazy.
Nice.
And so we just wrote a list down. These are the things that scare us. These are the things that we're kind of like, I don't know when we're going to do these together, We're going to try that. We just started taking Italian lessons. Like we're doing the things.
Bye.
I know. Hello. You got 2 mobsters on this show anyway. So, it really is fun to have a partner in crime to help you. But at the end of the day, whether or not you have a partner in crime doesn't have anything to do with it. You got to be your own partner, and you've got to make those decisions for yourself and be your own advocate for your life, for your day, for your health, for your career, whatever it is, because you're no good to anybody else if you're not good to yourself,
Right.
So, okay, before we jam, because I know we're getting close on time here, you've got a bunch of things that you've got going on. For starters, she's got an incredible book. And I don't say that lightly because it is. And she's funny. So now that you have heard her, looked at her, all of that stuff, the book is even going to be better. That's why I enjoyed it, because I had met her prior. But it is called You're Meant to Move. Right? You're meant to move, you're meant to groove, you're meant to do all of those things. She also has her website, which is movementremedies.org. You've got a 2-part movement class, right? That you're offering like for low back pain and hip pain?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a free class that's available. It's broken into 2 parts because I wanted the class that I wish I had for the days when my pain with flare up was the worst.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
cool.
kind of the day that you wake up and your back is like so bad, you think, oh, there's nothing I can do but put my feet up on the chair. The first part is, nope, sorry, you're going to come over here and you're going to do this class and you're going to feel better after. And if you don't, I welcome your emails telling me that you hated it. And then the second part is, once you're feeling on a good day, because I believe that you should have movement plans for good days and not so good days, right?
That's
Always
what it was.
want to
Movement
move,
plan. Yes.
but you want to have, in advance what you expect to do on a day that you feel terrible and a day that you feel great. And so this is a class that you can do to address both of those days. The second half is something that would actually make you stronger over time. And the first one is more of like, let's soothe the nervous system.
I love it. So, and I encourage you guys to find Pilates studios that are around you, but not all Pilates studios are alike. So please make sure that you do your research. And I'm speaking to this because I've tried a couple of them and they were not at all like what the one that we're starting to go to is like. It was just, there's just a feeling and it's for you. So like when you go in there, if it's not your vibe, don't give up just because it's not your vibe. Try something else. It's like finding a spouse. I didn't marry the first person that I had sex with, dear Lord. You know what I mean, though? There's you have to find.
That's not what a good Italian girl would say.
We're getting close to the end. Thank God. No, I'm kidding. So no, but like, am I right? Like you've got to find the right partner in crime when it comes to your health, when it comes to your instructor. What kind of bedside manner do they have? I had to find somebody for both of us because we are so depraved, and we are not like, hi, oh my gosh, thank you so much for my class. No, we're going to like bitch and moan and complain and make jokes and do the whole thing. That was not easy to find. And so, you have to find your little spot and then make it your home and, and take it day by day. I mean, that's how I have to work. Sometimes it's minute by minute, sometimes it's hour by hour. But when you find that right groove and you find those right people, then you're
also, as much as I love Pilates, I would never argue that Pilates is like the only movement modality, right? Like, I mean, for someone else, it may be water aerobics. It may be, there's definitely, you have to find your thing. And I think you have to be willing to try a lot of things.
Yeah, well said. Thank you for adding that for sure. And but we're really at the end of the day, guys, we got to move our bods, and strength train. And you talked a bit about that in your book too. And I was reading the statistics and I was like, oh. I'm like, thanks a lot. But it really rang true. I was sitting in my sauna a couple of days ago reading whatever part that was. And I was just like, I literally have weights that are sitting next to me at the desk right now so that I can just sit and at least do something while I'm sitting here at my desk, which is just a total joke. But gosh, this has been so much fun. Okay, well, I'm going to do my video of me walking down the street and I'm going to post it on Instagram and I'll tag your ass.
Amazing. Can't wait.
Thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with before we hit the dusty trail?
Just that hope is available to you. And if you can't find it today, there's another day ahead of you. And I think taking it one step at a time and you're not alone. I just think it's so important. It's such a lonely journey sometimes, but yeah, you can do it. You're meant to move.
You got it. I love it. You're meant to move. And we can move with DK by our side as well. You can find DK on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, all of the things. Her book, once again, is You're Meant to Move, a guide to conquering chronic pain, increasing stress resilience, and reclaiming an active life. You can find her at yourmeanttomove.com and movementremedies.org. And she's got more than you can imagine on her sites and in her social media as well. So please follow her, pick up her book, and I don't know, get moving, guys. Thanks for being here with me today, DK. All right, and that is the end of that. You are exclusively invited to share this lifelong movement journey together with DK and me. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. Do you know someone who is as crazy as DK and I, but that is living in or with chronic pain, struggling with health challenges, dealing with traumatic events, not only with yourself, but others that are in your life? Send them our way. We're here. Slip into my DMs, email me, call me. I don't care. I will connect you with anybody that's been a guest on this show. Not a problem. And I would love to connect with them to hear their stories too. So if there's somebody that's interested that wants to tell their story and be on this show, we are always here to take people to help them enjoy being vulnerable and honest and raw and real. It is nothing but wonderful. Please follow the Pain Game Podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.